a state of armed conflict between different nations or states, or different groups within a nation or state. Since the beginning of humans' time on Earth, war has been waged. As civilizations began to grow, so did their power and influence. With power and influence comes wealth and conflict. This conflict comes at a cost. So what is the cost of war? The cost of war can be broken down into the human costs and the economic costs. Although the human cost does influence economic costs, the effects of human loss cannot be inflated, printed, or traded. On the other hand, economic costs are easier to visualize, but more difficult to predict. For example, after World War II, Europe's economy collapsed by 70% due to the destruction of London, Germany, and France. Although rebuilding Europe cost the United States about $50 billion, or $350 to $400 billion today, the economic benefits of having brand new technology and infrastructure is difficult to quantify. What is easy to quantify is the loss of life witnessed during World War II. During the 6-year engagement, there was between 60 and 80 million casualties, some soldiers and some civilians. That includes about 400,000 US servicemen, about 6 million Chinese, and about 8.7 million Russians, with the Nazis killing about 11 million civilian men, women, and children. Of the 400,000 US casualties, about 2,500 died on D-Day alone. To put that into perspective, about the same number of coalition forces died in the Middle East between 2001 and 2010. In the 200,000 years since Homo sapiens have walked the planet, wars have not only grown more deadly, but of course they've also become more advanced. But what we do know is that the act of war hit its tipping point in the 1940s. Although there are outliers, in general, wars leading up to World War II were increasingly more deadly. But every armed conflict since has had significantly less casualties, accompanied by significantly higher economic costs. It seems as if countries are more willing to have higher economic costs for the reduced human costs. So what happened? Up until World War II, people were worth more dead than alive. You can take their lands, their goods, and recuperate the human and economic costs by increasing your area of influence. But by World War II, something changed. Weapons could reach further and hit harder. The sheer firepower made it possible to overrun a country with devastating results, but also for countries to defend themselves with bittersweet effectiveness. The brute force of two world powers can result in battles that lasted days or even weeks, with thousands killed. For example, when the Germans began their invasion of Russia at the Battle of Stalingrad, about 400,000 German casualties and about 1.1 million Russian casualties were recorded. Though the Germans were stopped, the human cost was astonishingly high. The cost of war has reached a new ceiling in the last century. Weapons have become too powerful. As nuclear weapons became commonplace among many of the world's powers, the human costs became too great. As an example, about 270,000 Japanese people were killed from only 2 atomic bombs. Now imagine these unquestionably efficient weapons implemented in a world war. Mutually assured destruction, or MAD, is the idea. That if anyone attacks your country with nuclear weapons, you would return fire along with all of your allies, ensuring a mutual destruction of at least 2 civilizations, but likely more. Unfortunately, this doesn't stop countries from developing and testing the latest military technology. As technology investments increase, the equipment increases in power, but also in price. The result is a world where large-scale wars are not worth the human cost, and even small wars are incredibly expensive. With a 2015 US military discretionary budget of around $600 billion, not including paid wages or healthcare, it's no surprise that the humans have literally overpowered themselves into peace. Even relatively small-scale wars like the US-Iraq War has cost the US about $2 trillion, with another few $100 billion in various veteran benefits. It's literally not worth it anymore. This opportunity cost of war can be seen in the years following World War II. Although there have been instances of instability and fighting, World War II has claimed more lives than any engagement since. This time of peace has been referred to as the New Peace. Time will tell if this momentary light at the end of the tunnel will remain. But as Albert Einstein once said, "I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones."